Let's just see whether this thing works. Does anybody know? That's it, okay.
Vooruit, achteruit of 4 opklikken.
Okay, it's just like driving a car. You go backwards or forwards or whatever you want to do. Thank you very much for inviting me to give this short lecture. I was very honored to give the invitation because many eminent people have gone before me, much more eminent people than myself. On the academic side, I particularly feel a little bit nervous to follow Mr. Hofstede, Ralph Duindorf, an ex-boss of mine at London School of Economics, Bram de Zwaan, and on the political side you've had your heavyweights as well. So today, perhaps a bit more modest person talking about Europe. I suppose I'm the son of an English mother and of an English father. That makes me a European, but then again the Brits have not always been the most staunch Europeans. I've worked, and I still have jobs in Munich, in Germany. I've worked 5 years in Italy. I've worked for many years in Vienna. And I've worked in many parts for UNESCO. I was many years in Paris. So I feel myself more European than anything else. But that's not sure that qualifies me to give this lecture. However, I will try to do my best. And I've tried to be not too too much focus on economics. I try to also put a bit of fair share of what I call political science. Now, undoubtedly there will be political scientists in the room, and they will think, well, maybe that's not quite so good as it is, but I'll do my best. So it's really a mixture of political science and a mixture of, so the spectacles I'm wearing tonight are the spectacles of a political scientist, the spectacles of a pragmatic politician, and the spectacles of a professional economist looking at Europe and where we need to go to. So let's look, where the hell does it go? Well, I don't know. Page down. There we go. I thought I'd show you the man because I suppose I'm known quite a person in politics as a fairly celibate man. And this man, he was a very devout Roman Catholic Christian French politician. As the burgomaster already said, prime minister and a minister. You can see he looks a bit dour, but he was from the post-war generation. Together with German colleagues, he wanted really to work a lot on reconciliation of France and Germany. So he was really also, that became known as the Schuman Plan, and later became the European Community for Coal and Steel. And later on, he can really be seen together with Monnet as one of the founders of the European Union, and he is the man we honor today. Not a very, you know, not sure whether you would have a lot of fun with him, but obviously this is the man we're talking about, and this is the man on which shoulders I stand and I admire a lot. The people of that generation, like in our country, the generation of Lubbers, Baron Biesheuvel when he was still alive, Wim Kok, when they talked about Europe, and I will not do that today, but I will say it, is that they say that Europe is really all about never having this horrific experience of the Second World War again. So for these people, the whole argument for Europe was, we will not have war again on this continent. Therefore, it's very sad that I was a member of a cabinet where my Prime Minister, Wim Kok, had to resign about Srebrenica and the war in former Yugoslavia, because the enormous cock-up we made in the Netherlands. And I am also responsible for that, because at that time I was a member of the cabinet, and the whole cabinet resigned for that reason. The lesson for which I had is, it was the main reasons for people like that to say we will never have war again in Europe. Little did they know, we had it in Europe, and we needed the Americans to clear up the mess in our own backyard. So one of the first things I start off before I start on my lecture proper is that one of the main tasks, namely safety and security on the European continent, we have been unable to look for it because of insufficient strength in the spheres of defense or in the spheres of foreign policy to prevent those gruel events that happened in former Yugoslavia, that we could not prevent it, and in the end we needed the help of others to clear up the mess in our own backyard. So what would somebody like Schumann have said about that episode? That's what I first think of. Now, most of today, I will not talk about that. I will take that as given, not because I don't think it's important, but because I want to focus on other things. Those arguments, never war again, are not the arguments that are of foremost interest to younger generations of Europe. So I take it as important, but I'm not going to focus on it today. I want to focus today on how come that Europe has become so unpopular. How come it's become almost politically correct to basically take the piss out of Europe? How come it is that if you say, well, I'm a European, that you might as well say you're a child molester, but that is not really, it really doesn't go down very well. And that's not even only true, as I will show later on, for extremist parties on the left or extreme parties on the right, but it's even bon ton to say that among the established parties in the center. So if there's something bad that needs to be done, you blame Europe. So I'm trying to understand also something about institutional reform and what's necessary in Europe. Remember, Europe is getting larger and larger and larger. We're getting more and more countries becoming members. More and more countries want to become members. So we also have a problem with policy gridlock. So this makes the problem I talk about even more urgent. So I'm going to delve a little bit before I start. How does Europe work? How does the Parliament work? How does the Council work? Has the Treaty of Nice done anything about it? And I'll gradually move on to more economic topics, and then I move back to politics again, because in the end, it is, of course, a political question. So let's start with something. That was the title, and this is how you go backward. So I think we could argue that the European politics doesn't really prove to be very fascinating for the electorate. In a sense, European institutions, as they are at the moment, are completely unfit to govern and enlarge Europe. We know from literature on committee decision making that if you have more than 7 people around the table, you can forget making rational decisions. I've been involved on European councils for culture, and it's impossible almost to make decisions. There's an enormous problem of gridlock the more countries you have. So we need further reform of European institutions. Then I wanted to say something about maybe something positive, maybe, if you want to say. It used to be the case, you could argue the success of Europe could be that we don't vote along national lines. For example, I might be left-wing, or I might be Christian democratic, but I might have left-wing brothers in Germany or in France or in Italy. And am I more likely to vote along with my left-wing German and Italian brothers than to vote along with my with my Dutch friends in the parliament? So do you vote more along national lines, or do you vote more along party lines? So I'll just show you some evidence of that. So for example, this is what we call an agreement index for the European Parliament as a whole. Well, it goes up and down and down. There's less and less agreement, so there's more debate, if you want. That's how you can interpret it. But I'm more interested to show you this. And this shows something about the average relative cohesion of European party groups and member states. So what it means that it's going up, if you look at party states, is the cohesion of party groups, that people are voting more along social democratic lines, or along green lines, or along Christian democratic lines, or along anti-immigrant lines, rather than voting Dutch, Italian, French, or German. So whereas in the old days, in the European Parliament, this is based on very detailed voting records. So we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of votes over the last 30, 40 years. So this is the result, what I show you, of a very detailed empirical research, which I don't want to bother you with, but the bottom line of it is to do with people like Gérard Roland, Hicks, Simon Hicks from the London School of Economics, Gérard Roland from the University of Berkeley. But what the line is, people are voting less according to national allegiances and more along ideological lines.